Oi, welcome back to another video on the channel. Now, if you were to ask me what was more disappointing as a Broncos supporter, watching your team collect a wooden spoon in 2020 or dropping out of finals contention a year after making the grand final, I think with ease I'd say the latter. The 2024 Brisbane Broncos were one of the worst performing teams this season, especially when you consider the talent they had on deck and where they finished at the end of the regular season. Heading into the new year, the movement within the playing roster is pretty minimal. You can count on one hand the players coming in and heading out. In fact, the biggest shift at the club comes in the form of a new coaching staff, as the red-hot Michael Maguire takes the lead as their new head coach. He arrives at Red Hill fresh off a monumental State of Origin series win that was sealed with a win at Suncorp Stadium, and that performance following a historic couple of wins over the Australian Kangaroos with, of course, the New Zealand Kiwis. Now, regardless of what happened with his stint at his last NRL gig, I think it's safe to assume that Madge knows what he's doing when he has a talented roster at his disposal, which is why many have the Broncos back in premiership contention this upcoming season. So in terms of ins and outs, Madge is a huge in for the Brisbane Broncos next year, as is the recent confirmation of superstar half and hooker Ben Hunt. The only other signing listed is Jet Bryce to their development list. I actually don't know much about him. Just that he plays in the back row and is a product of Kebra Park State High. As for the players no longer at the club in 2025, they will be without Corey Oates, who's retired, as well as Jordan Pereira, and Tristan Saylor heads over to the Super League. Now we move on to my best 17 for 2025, as always, starting with the back five. At fullback, Reece Walsh, a no-brainer, the future of the club, or at least he's considered that. He's coming off a pretty terrible 2024 season, not only performance-wise, but a little unlucky with injuries. Like a lot of players in this roster, I'm interested to see how they adapt to the way their new coach handles things, and if we'll see a shift in Reece's playstyle. Moving on to the left wing, we're going to go with Jesse Arthurs, another player that copped an injury in 2024 and had a bit of a downer year overall. He still gets the start in my best 17. I do think he can be a quality winger in the league. He just lacks a bit of consistency, but yeah. We move on to the left centre, and I was actually tossing up between two players, one Dean Mariner and Selwyn Cobbo, who did play most of 2024 at left centre. We're going to stick with Selwyn. Even with his future uncertain at the club, he still gets a start in any position out of this back five, and I actually rate him playing in the centres, not only for his physicality in attack, but his decision making in defence was actually pretty decent. Moving on to the right side, a staple in the back five over the years, Gordoni Staggs. Both him and Cobbo's future in the maroon and gold is up in the air, apparently, according to all reports. Someone's getting squeezed out, and it's one of these two. With that aside, if injury free, he is one of the best centers in the league. Cops a lot of flack for his defense, but I actually don't think he's as bad as what many say. And finally, to close out the back five on the right wing, we're going with Dean Mariner, the speedster. Despite scoring plenty of points this season, he had a pretty bad year in terms of discipline, his defense, his hands. He was dropping as many balls as he was scoring points, from what I can remember at least. With that aside, easily one of the best finishers in the game, with speed almost unmatched. Moving on to the most talked about position over the last couple of months when it comes to the Broncos. Now I'm assuming they'll be without Ezra Mam for an extended period, and with their new recruit Ben Hunt joining the fray, I've got him in the number 6. Now during this offseason, we've been talking about Ben Hunt potentially finishing his career at the Broncos, and we are going to see that. Not only have we gotten what we wanted in terms of narratives and the old redemption arc, but we get to see the most experienced halves duo the league has ever seen, at least according to Rando here, as Ben Hunt and Adam Reynolds will have 621 combined matches played. Again, this is my best 17. I want Hunt in the 6. There's a chance we may not see this pairing, as he could very well come off the pine or start at hooker as well. But yeah, for me, Ben Hunt at 6, Adam Reynolds at 7, and my best 17. As we move on to the engine room. Coming in at number 8, the most consistent player for the Broncos over the years, arguably one of, if not the most consistent forward in the league over these last few years, Payne Haas. Not much to rag on about Payne Haas. He is that guy in the forward pack. Lock him in at number 8 in my best 17. At number 9, this one may be a bit controversial, as I feel like 90% of the Broncos fan base do not like this kid. I don't think he's as bad as what many say, considering he was fairly new to the hooking position. I believe he's improved upon each year, and that is of course Billy Walters. He does have a tendency to go rogue, and I think that's why people don't really rate him as a hooker. What I will say, with all the experience coming in with Ben Hunt, Adam Reynolds at side him as well, I'd like to see him pick his moments better. And that all comes with experience. Again, he wasn't always a hooker, and apparently he's been training at 5'8". So we may even see him starting there and Ben Hunt at 9, who knows. What I will say, if Ezra Mam was available, I don't think Walters will make my starting side. But without Mam, he gets the starts at 9, and at 10, rounding off the front row, I've got Corey Jensen. Nothing flashy about Corey Jensen, he's a consistent hard runner and heavy hitter, and essential to any front row. And now moving on to the back row, on the left side we're going with Brendan Piakura, who, man, is susceptible to those HIAs, those head knocks. That's one thing I worry about with Brendan. Other than that, I do think he's a pretty solid back rower. And on the right side, Jordan Ricky, like a few other young talents on this list, had a pretty bad or inconsistent 2024 season. Somewhat of a staple in this Broncos forward pack. They've backed him over letting players like Bullymore walk out. He should be an interesting watch, because I don't think that jersey will be his if he gets off to a bad start. And finally, wrapping up the starting 13, Paddy Carrigan, like Payne Haas, has been one of their most consistent forwards over the years, and is a no-brainer pick for anyone's Broncos best 17. Like Payne, not much needs to be said about this guy. Let's move on to the interchange. In the 14, the Spark jersey in many teams, I'm going with the young rake Blake Moser, who more recently is the talk of the town given the Brisbane Broncos' current salary cap squeeze. People may want him to start, but I think they ease him in this year and keep him coming off the bench, or I'd like to see him coming off the bench and ease into what will eventually be his number 9 jersey. 15, a bit of a breakout season for Xavier Willison, who, one of 2 promising up-and-coming forwards for the Bronx, can play a middle or on an edge, and the other, in jersey 16, I'm going with Big Ben Takura, standing at 6'9", weighing a whopping 122 kgs. I've got this young man mountain getting more game time this season in the front row rotation. Finally, rounding off our 17, somewhat of a staple to the bench of the Broncos over the years, with Paddy Carrigan locking down that 13 jersey. My second rotation for the middle is Kobe Hetherington. Like a lot of players on this list, had a pretty shaky 2024, but when he's locked in, he can be super impactful coming off the pine. And that about wraps up my best 17 for the Broncos heading into the 2025 season. If you have a differing best 17, let us know in the comments section down below. Maybe you have Hunt starting in the 9, and you think Ezra Mam will be starting at 6. I'm assuming a lot of you have Moser in the 9. Let us know your thoughts, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to run straight at that like button. For more rugby league related content or more content in general, go ahead and drop your boy a cheeky sub. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you later.